It's 5 o'clock in Pirate Country, and it's time to get pumped up with the P-Man. Hit the door and hit the road. 94.3 The Game is going to get you home, and the P-Man's not holding back.
Yes! Yes! Pirates win! Pirates win!
Bring on the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Holy mackerel! Oh, my goodness!
The flagship station of the ECU Pirates.
Okay, welcome in. It is the Patrick Johnson Show. We're back on Thursdays, our special time of 4 o'clock. And here on 94.3 The Game, Steve Logan Show and the Logan Zone coming up. Coach will join us tomorrow, by the way, for the program. Looking forward to that. Also, on tomorrow's show, C.J. Wilson, who is the coach now in North Pitt, Super Bowl champ of the Packers, ECU draft pick, great defensive lineman in Pirate lore, will be on the program. So that is coming up Friday. We'll be back at our familiar time at 5. Today, Kristi Overton Johnson, she has her revival that is going on starting this afternoon, later on at Fire Tower Road, and we will talk with her about that coming up later on in this program. Plus, our friend Travis Hancock, T-Bone, from the Mac and Bone Show on WFNZ in Charlotte. So we'll get the very latest going on there, talk about what's going on around the ACC and the state of North Carolina as far as football goes as well. We have Philip the Ref Pilkington in the Hizzle today. We'll do a quick Pirate report coming up in a few minutes. But Pilk wanted to run a... First of all, how are you, Pilk?
I'm good, P-Man. How are you?
I'm great. I'm hanging in. I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful.
So you look good. You look great. You look wonderful. So, you know.
Thank you. Boy, flattery will get you everywhere. Yeah. Pilk will be part of the extravaganza known as the Anson Belt and Buckle Pirate Game Day Countdown presented by Orthopedics East. What time are we on? 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. Pilk, there's a 50-50 shot. I could be at the Working Man's Beach doing the show. I don't know yet. We will see. A lot of it depends on how the next 30 hours go, let's just say. I think that's fair, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. Long as Dom knows. Hey, long as you tell Dom, I'm good.
Right.
That way he knows.
So Pilk will be there providing his 2 cents worth scores for us during the pregame. And we'll have Joey Sampson will be with us. Joey Football, Joe Sampson, I should say. Will be with us. So that'll be coming up. Reports from Stephen Igo. Andrew Bays will be joining the show. We got a lot for you. Pilk, a little bit of news that broke yesterday. Great show yesterday, by the way, with Brian Mull, but also talking with Coach Doug Martin. But Clemson and Florida State and the ACC have apparently started to talk now about a greater revenue share to those schools based on brand valuation and television ratings, as well as perhaps alter the expiration of the league's grant of rights, which right now is 2036. This would be in exchange for the Tigers and Seminoles dropping their lawsuit against the conference. Multiple sources within the league say that conversations are preliminary and the sides are not close to an agreement, but the conversations represent a strong signal that Florida State and Clemson are open to remaining in the conference under more favorable financial terms. In 22-23, the ACC distributed an average of $44.8 million per school, $7 million less than the SEC. That difference is expected to grow to more than $30 million when accounting for the new SEC television contract, which began this year. So what Florida State and Clemson are looking for, it's really what this whole thing's been about all along. They just want more money. And I thought, again, this is something that months ago was said by Wes Durham. For Florida State, this has nothing to do with the SEC's making so much more money. It's that UCF now is closer to Florida State in money made now that they're a member of the Big 12. That's really what this is all about, and people in Tallahassee can't have that. It may not be what it's all about, but it's got as much to do with this as anything. because even if a greater rev share, they're not going to make up $30 million in difference to what Mississippi State and Vanderbilt are getting paid. Should they do something that, yeah, I mean, does Boston College, maybe a bad example with the way they've played, but does BC or Syracuse or even Pitt deserve the same amount of money that Florida State or Clemson deserve based on football? No. My question would be, at the ACC, how do you handle that with basketball, Pilk? Because Duke is a proven ratings winner and needle mover in basketball. I'm not saying the basketball ratings are even close to football ratings.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in that time of year, which is a coveted programming part of the schedule for networks, Duke is the team you want to have on your schedule. To a degree, North Carolina, but certainly Duke. Duke football, maybe not moving needles. But how does Duke factor into that? Because they're a brand name. They are a brand in basketball.
They are. And here's the other thing. There is 2 games a year that are the most televised, watched games in college basketball. Yeah. And who plays in them? Duke and North Carolina. Not Syracuse, not NC State, not Wake, not anybody else in the ACC.
Well, and the Duke Wake or the Duke State Elite Eight game, it's like a 12 or 15 million people viewed it. Most watched Elite Eight game in years. Years, maybe ever, but certainly years. So you got to account for all of that. There's value in ACC basketball, but, you know, that's why I think when you hear this stuff about this school may go there, that they got a program basketball season. And Duke is a proven ratings winner in basketball. That's why they are on television more than Leave It to Beaver, to paraphrase Pete Gillen from back in the day. Let's do a Pirate report before we get T-Bone on. What do you say, Mr. Pilkington?
Sounds good.
Let's hear from what the what they had to say. Well, let's hear from Coach Houston. Let's do that. Let's save the coordinators for tomorrow. How do you feel about that, Pilk?
Works for me.
All right. A little bit of Mike Houston here. He talked about Chase Sowell and how he is holding up after a tough performance.
I had a good talk with him on Monday, and, you know, he can't do anything about missing the time during preseason camp. But, you know, he's got to do a great job mentally just handling making a mistake. You know, he can't let one mistake turn into 2 kind of deal. So I thought he's had a good week of practice. I thought he's had the perfect kind of response this week, very motivated. So, you know, looking forward to seeing what he can do Saturday night.
Pirates, of course, will take on Liberty, 6 o'clock on Saturday, ESPN Plus. You can listen to the game here, though, on 94.3 The Game and 107.9 WNCT and the IBX Media app. When asked how to stay consistent when you have an early lead, this is what Coach Houston had to say.
A lot execution-wise, you know, especially offensively. You know, just we're stopping ourselves a lot, and you know, we got to get beyond that. And obviously, you know, playing a very good defense has a lot to do with it. But you know, I felt like the other night that we stopped ourselves more than we got stopped, and it comes down to us controlling what we can control. And so it's what we just got finished talking about on the field. And that's what the focus for Thursday and Friday is going to be.
More from Coach Houston, and when asked about Andrew Conrad and how he is faring after what was a tough game.
He's fine. I mean, the extra point was, you know, kind of an outlier. You know, the guy, you know, running on the field like they had 10 on the field, and the guy ran in there right as we're getting ready to snap it, and it kind of spooked him a little bit. But and you know, the field goal, he said I didn't allow enough for the wind. And but he's fine. I mean, he hit those other 2 kicks pure, and he was really good yesterday when we kicked. So I expect him to be fine.
All right, and Liberty has had a great run of success at home. This is what Coach had to say about that.
It's just the challenge. I mean, they've had a good run the last you know, year and a half, and so it's, you know, it breeds a lot of confidence. And you know, we've talked about that in here, and it's you know, a great opportunity for us.
Hey, do we have the Taylor Jackson stuff easily available. Pilk, do you have that by chance
I
from the
can
other
about
day?
3 or 4 seconds. So
Okay. One of the storylines, obviously, this weekend is Taylor Jackson is playing for Liberty, transferred from ECU. 41 or 42 games in the 3-year run in Greenville. And he was asked this week about playing East Carolina and just his memories of playing in Greenville.
we've got the ones I've got here are Taylor Jackson on his time at ECU and Taylor Jackson. Oh, that one. Okay, gotcha. Making sure. All right,
Yep.
my bad.
Yep.
No
No
I
problem.
would just say main takeaways, just blessed to get my degree there first and foremost. But I just definitely say the brotherhood friendship I actually built there. Definitely a lot of great brothers, things like that.
And then what's the other one?
If he's had any communication with any former teammates leading into the game.
That's an interesting one. Play that, Pilk.
Every Friday, I usually, like we get on a group FaceTime call, just chop it up with the guy. They know the last FaceTime call we got on, I told them, this week, big week, so no communication at all.
Well, that makes sense. And it's good that he can have that communication with those guys afterwards. So that's a pretty good deal, don't you think, Pilk?
Yeah, I like it. Look, it's one of those things. It's something that a lot of people go through what they're going through right now, just not at the college level. It's new at the college level, right? We went through it in high school. A
Right.
kid you grew up with, played little league with, and now they go to a rival high school, and you might already talk every week, but the communication does seem to kind of dwindle down the weeks leading up, and especially that week. And then usually you meet at the midfield logo after the game. Obviously, once you get to the NFL, you get to trade jerseys. We couldn't do that in high school, and they're not getting to do it in college either. But and then usually call each other up that night, or depending on the travel and everything. Maybe Monday is the day off in college football, and they'll speak then. And you wish each other the best the rest of the season, because hey, win or lose, this day and time you want to look the best. So you do hope that the opposing team actually goes on to be pretty successful throughout the rest of the season, because it's going to make you look a lot better.
Yeah, just not against you. Just not against you. All right, this is the Patrick Johnson Show here on 94.3 The Game. Back in our familiar spot at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Coming up at 5 today, we've got the Logan Zone. Coach Logan will be talking what is on his mind for 2 hours and taking your phone calls at 561-GAME, 561-4263. T-Bone. Going to talk with Travis Hancock from WFNZ. Get the real straight poop on what's going on down in Charlotte with Bryce Young, what Dave Canales is saying and what we should really believe, and also get his thoughts on what's going on with football across the state. App State's got a game tonight, Pilk. Do you know that?
I did. Who are they playing? South Alabama? Is that who it is?
South Alabama.
USA, baby.
It is in USA, exactly. That is I think a 6-7 point spread last I saw from tonight or for tonight. Let me see. I got it here, Bill. I swear to you I got it here. I promise you I've got it here.
I should have played the Jeopardy music instead of AC/DC. Come on, P-Man.
You should. You should. South
Alabama.
Wait for it. All right, we'll be back with T-Bone coming up here. Talk about what's going on in Charlotte with the ref, Philip Pilkington, right after this.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you farm to fork beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to fork beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern living's best small town.
Pirate game days, there's nothing like them. The atmosphere, the tradition, the matchups, the magical finishes. Be a part of Pirate Game Days. Season tickets are as low as $115. Reserve your seat today to be a part of the experience of Pirate Game Days at Donnie Ficklin Stadium this fall.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
We have you covered with all the ECU news and beyond that you need for the drive home. The Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Great P-Man here with you on this Thursday. Logan Zone coming up at 5. We're on at 4 now through the Super Bowl on Thursdays, and back at our familiar time of 5 o'clock Monday through Wednesday, and then tomorrow here on 94.3 The Game, 94.3thegame.com, and the IBX Media app. Travis Hancock, a great friend from the Charlotte area, and he is the uber successful host of Mac and Bone in the Mornings there in Charlotte on WFNZ. He joins us now. How about your 3-0 Blue Devils?
Yeah, I'm glad you started with that. Thank you for starting with the positives. I do appreciate that. Hey, if I keep putting money on any Panther games here recently, I'd be driving an Uber. So that's the key word there. So
Look,
I'm glad you started.
Nowadays in radio, who knows? Travis, nowadays in radio, who knows? We all got to do something. We all got to make $1. The radio.
Yeah, but you're right. Duke, not a thing of beauty, but Duke looks, it's all about just trying to get to a bowl game year one for Manny Diaz. So just stack wins, and they got North Carolina next week. But no, you're right. I know you're saying it a little bit in jest, but hey, Duke's doing okay just to try to get to a bowl game here in year one under Manny.
I think it's interesting. I don't think I think as much as some Duke fans I've talked to are lamenting the fact that that North Carolina's got JMU this week. Don't sleep on that, because North Carolina's got major quarterback problems. But and JMU knows how to win. I don't know how good this JMU team is, but they're, I guess, 2-0. Duke goes to Middle Tennessee. I think they'd be a prohibitive favorite there. If I'm not mistaken, Middle has struggled a little bit, and Duke has already won a tough road game in overtime against a better than expected Northwestern team in that soccer stadium, which I thought was they just don't play games there. Never mind, don't build whatever monstrosity you're going to build that you're going to halfway fill. Just play those games at the soccer thing. That was so cool. But I look at this T-Bone, and I think, Duke could have quite a bit to play for next week against North Carolina.
They could. The interesting thing, though, as you bring it up, is there is a little bit of a look-ahead factor. JMU's been a really good program, and Carolina's favored by only 10 in that game at home as they try to figure out their quarterback situation. And into the fourth quarter last week, North Carolina, the Heels led Central only by 7 entering the fourth quarter. So JMU can hang. And as far as Duke goes, Duke should win. Let's keep in mind that's a road game also. I know it's a little surprising. Duke is going on the road to Middle Tennessee, who's not great, but Duke's favored by 15. You do kind of curious when you're kind of curious when you think about it. You know, if you're doing point spreads and trying to think of some wagers, you know, it is interesting that I think that, you know, both JMU and Middle Tennessee have, I think, a chance to maybe, you know, play within the spread there a little bit as we start to think about the games and how they play out.
I'm guessing that Nia King did not get Jim Phillips' memo that Dave Dorn got about not scheduling G5 road games.
No, and
I get
you
that
know,
might have only applied to Dave Doran. That may have only applied to Dave Doran. Now that I think about it,
and Duke should win, but you know, the more I'm thinking about it, talking to you, I wonder. I'm going to have to do some research here and start to wonder, hey, what you know, Middle Tennessee's not good, but you know, Duke also they didn't put Elon away right away. Last week they had to fight over UConn. They won at Northwestern, but you know, for a road,
I don't know. They're not going to blow anybody
team
out, T-Bone. You don't need to look forward to a comfy
I'm wondering now
Duke
that's
season.
The game to look at it.
Yeah. All right. I want to ask you about another game that is in Charlotte proximity, sort of, that I'm sure is getting some interest with your audience and in your city, as the great Travis Hancock, T-Bone from WFNZ Mornings, joins us. And that is State going to Clemson. Everybody had Clemson for dead because they lost to probably the most talented team in football in week one. And then finally McCall gets hurt and C.J. Bailey starts as a true freshman. I don't care what kind of shape Clemson is in. If you're a true freshman making your first start in Death Valley, that doesn't bode well.
No, here's the key to the car, kid. Now go drive on the Autobahn, right? That's basically what's going on there. I mean, and look, and maybe that's part of it. Like maybe it's sort of like, hey, much like Brennan Armstrong, although he got back in there last year, maybe it's kind of like, you know, for the sake of what we can become down the line, let's let this young talented kid in there and deal with this, because the truth lies somewhere between with Clemson. You know, we all freaked out, and I did too, about the way that Georgia blew them out, but then they come back and they beat App State. Look, we've covered this for a long time. I can't remember App getting blown out very often, never mind at that level against anybody. I mean, normally App competes against all these teams to you know, within 7 to 10 even if they're losing. So Clemson, App got Clemson wrong day, wrong time. They were ready to go. Obviously, Clemson's offense might not be that good, but it's going to be better than it was against Georgia. But I just think that, you know, I guess State's lucky. Maybe it's not a night game there, but I mean, it would take a pretty miraculous performance for a freshman to take on this Clemson team. And that point spread went bonkers. It was initially like 5-7, and now it's at 20 plus. So yeah, I think that long term Bailey might be the guy, but man, good luck in your first game trying to do something against this Clemson defense.
We've got T-Bone from WFNZ on the Patrick Johnson Show. So we'll get to the Panthers here in a second, but we were loaded yesterday and didn't get the story. We talked about it a little bit in the opening monologue of the show here today. Looks like the ACC is talking turkey now with a non-equitable rev share, a rev share based on performance and ratings and other metrics to retain Clemson and Florida State. So I think this is kind of where, and I understand everything's really early in these talks, but that's inevitably where this was going to have to go if the ACC wants to stay intact.
Yeah, I mean, that's good news so far on that front for the ACC. It's also not shocking that Florida State, based off their start, it's like, you know what, maybe we'll hang out a little bit, because I'm sure that the SEC and the Big Ten, those late night calls, they're not going through. Maybe they call it the new Pac-12. I don't know, but certainly the Florida State side of this is probably, you know what, maybe now's not the right time to move, because if we were not a hot commodity in the last couple of years when the program was getting its footing back, can't see right now that a lot of interest is coming from the Big Two of the Big Ten and the SEC. So the Clemson side, who knows what that is, but the Florida State side, Yeah, you were thought to not be that wanted anyway, and I can't imagine that your stock has risen here in the first month of the college football season.
Yeah, and if anything, to me, it would make sense they would go to the Big Ten. Not that I'm saying the Big Ten wants them, but it doesn't really do the SEC a ton of good, does it, to have Clemson and Florida State? I mean, yeah, it makes pretty good football, but as far as footholds and having your flag planted in a territory, you could argue they've already got that in Florida. They've already got that in South Carolina. So if the Big Ten wanted to encroach into SEC and ACC country, that would make some sense. But I don't know if the Big Ten wants anything to do with those two. So I don't know.
Yeah, interesting to see what happens with those two. And there's always been a thought of the dominoes effect, and that's where the Big 12 comes in, because all the rumors. And, when the rumors happen for these things, a lot of times things do happen. The crazier things sound, who would have thought that the Big Ten would do what they're doing, right? So, things can sound crazy, but the reality of the landscape, and the Big 12 has always been pretty proactive too out there, right? We kind of don't always bring them up for the initial stuff, but Big 12 has done an unbelievable job of at least stabilizing themselves with a lot of teams, and especially on the basketball side. And I know it doesn't matter as much as football, but the Big 12 certainly is not apt to make a move too. They're more active than the ACC, and the ACC is too reactionary. The Big 12 does a good job. So we've heard a lot of stuff about the Big 12 and who they might want from the ACC. So they're always kind of hanging out too. You never quite know these days what they might be up to as well, right?
We're talking to morning host on WFNZ, Travis Hancock, T-Bone, joining us here on the Patrick Johnson Show. We love it when he's on. All right. So Dave Canales says after last week's hideous performance that Bryce Young's going to be our starter when we go to play the Raiders next weekend. And then Monday it's announced he's on the bench for Andy Dalton. So I ask you, what happened?
Well, I mean, if you think that Dave Canales himself in year number one just decided it wasn't time for Bryce Young anymore, a job that he was brought in to do with Bryce Young, if you think that he just made his decision and then he asked Dan Morgan and Brant Tillis in the front office about it, who also, by the way, are in their first year in their positions, if you think all this went down without Davey Millions, David Tepper getting involved in some way, shape, or form, that's insane. This isn't like, I used the example this week, like, all right, well, and it's one that I know well, but it's like, all right, well, Brian Cashman for the Yankees does something. It's like, oh, well, you got 28 years, who knows? But Dave Canales has coached 2 games. Dan Morgan has GM 2 games. Brant Tillis has been the personnel money guy for 2 games. There's no way they sat around and thought, you know what, it's time we do something drastic. No, this is a collective decision. The David Tepper part, we don't know in full, but the thing you're talking about, too, Canales came out and, he said what he said on Sunday. But what about what he said the week before? He mentioned that he was meeting with David Tepper after the first game. So you already put that out there that, well, I guess, which is whatever, like he's the owner. So you already put it out there that you might be meeting with Tepper after games. So you just meet Tepper after this game? No, this is, to me, it's in the Canales part of it, too, it's got to be trying to save the locker room, right? That's got to be the Canales side. There's a side for all involved. So Canales has to be, the locker room's revolting. The Dan Morgan side has to be, I just saw what the roster was like last year. I'm not going to go through this again here. So I've got my stake in the game to try to evaluate the entire roster. How can I evaluate Mingo and Leggett and Deontay and all these pieces? This is the offense. And the Tepper side, it's the business side, right? You look at the tickets and the fans and the booing. So they all have a stake in the game. And you know what? It's not good. It really is. And it sounds like hyperbole, but it's not. And it's crazy to think how we landed here. This is one of the worst trades in sports history.
Oh, and it's terrible.
I know it sounds weird on the surface, but when you look at, it's not like they just missed on their own draft choice. It's what C.J. Stroud is. And it's what, not yet, but it's what potentially Caleb Williams can be. Stroud is one thing. If Williams is that dude, you give up DJ Moore, Like, there are few trades, not in Charlotte, not in football, in the history of sports that may look as bad as this. So this is Jamarcus Russell plus. That's how bad this thing potentially can be. If Bryce gets back in there and I'm wrong, I'll own that. But it's really hard to see that path happening right now.
It's the opposite of Ruth to the Yankees, is what it is. I mean, in many ways. I mean, that's the worst trade in sports history. Lou Brock. I mean, there's millions of them. But this one is right up there. You're right. So if I'm a Panthers fan, and thank God I'm not, I've got to be really frustrated that David Tepper continues to meddle. And this is all Tepper. He's the one that wanted Bryce Young.
Yeah, I mean, it is a thing, but as far as the meddling goes, you can look at it one of two ways. Because I agree. Like last year, we heard that he was submitting plays that he saw the Cleveland Browns run at some point, which is not. I don't know what year it was for the Browns. I don't know who it was. That's not good, right?
Vinny Testaverde was the quarterback.
Yeah, that type of meddling is one thing. Here, Patrick, I think there's one of two ways to look at it. You could say, "Oh my God, I can't believe he got involved," or does it go to what we just said, and do you actually tip your hat to all involved and say, they know how bad it is, it's a horrible trade, and they're not going to sit through this one more time? Maybe you own it now, I guess. Maybe you own it now, and I don't know. Maybe you say, you know what, why continue this if it's really that bad as it is? And maybe you just own it, and sometimes it's better to be out in front of it. And I'm not saying it's right that it's this bad, but I wonder if they're all just kind of like, yeah, we and I think too going forward, as weird as this is going to sound too, I wonder if Andy Dalton should just be the guy for. And it depends on Andy Dalton. No, I'm not saying it's a surefire thing. But,
sure.
Dave Canales has experience with vet quarterbacks that he's gotten a lot out of. I wonder if Andy Dalton just has to be the guy for the now and in the next year to start, only because this franchise needs stability. They need professionalism. They need some respectability. So we talked a lot about, do you just run to the draft again and try to take who you think might be the best quarterback in a draft that's really got a lot of unknowns? Or do you just say, you know what, we're going to ride this thing out with a vet for a little bit. We're going to get stable. We're going to add defensive pieces. We're going to fix the roster while we go out. Because I don't know. Are you going to run to Shador or Carson Beck or Quinn Ewers right away and do this again? Who those guys could also not be good either. We don't know. Or you just say, you know what, we're going to let Andy Dalton just try to get us to a level where we get our heads above water even. And just because right now it's one of the worst runs in terms of like.
Oh, it's a joke. They're the laughing stock. Yeah. I mean, they're the laughing stock of the NFL.
Yeah, only 6 times ever in league history have teams had the worst record back-to-back years. And, they've done that. And the only reason it's not 3 is because Steve Wilkes got hired when Matt Rule got fired. And if Matt Rule was not fired when he was, they would have the worst record 3 years in a row, which has never been done before.
Yeah. Unreal. Hey, great to talk to you, Travis. We'll catch you up with you again soon in a few weeks. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, hopefully things are looking better, but I can't make any promises over the next couple of weeks here. All I can do is just try to enjoy my day. It's a beautiful Thursday, as Dave Canales says.
There you go. Well, that's one way to look at it. Thank you, T-Bone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Pilk, I don't know how you do it as a fan. I mean, they're
rough,
a laughing
man.
stock.
It's rough.
They've got who's the little fella that does the SEC stuff? Feinbaum.
Yeah.
Feinbohr. They got Feinbaum on mocking them as like on guest spots. I mean,
it's rough.
I wouldn't spend a dime.
Worst
if I were a
record
season ticket
since-
holder, I wouldn't spend a dime.
Well, the problem is then you lose your PSLs forever if you don't buy them.
Spend it on something else.
Well, the money you're losing of your net worth for what the license are worth is not what you're saving and not doing tickets.
Well, how do you do it? All right, Philip the Ref Pilkington. We got Kristi Overton Johnson coming up. She's got a big event here in Greenville, which starts tonight. Right now, here's the Ref, though, with the 94.3 The Game Sports Update and Pirate Report.
Be sure to come out to Johnson Stadium tonight as the soccer team will be in action. They try and take on USA. They are currently 1-0 in conference play. They look to bounce back after their only loss of the season, which cans the hands of an out-of-conference team in JMU on Sunday. Texas coach Steve Sarkisian announced earlier today that Quinn Ewers will not suit up for Saturday's contest against UL Monroe. He left last week's game with an abdominal injury, meaning that Arch Manning will get his first career start. That'll do it for 94.3 The Game Sports Flash Update. And Pirate Report can take a timeout. We'll be joined by Kristi Overton Johnson on the other side.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Hey Glenn, let's talk about a new program at Greenville Nissan.
Sure, sometimes bad things happen to good people, like credit hiccups.
Greenville Nissan just rolled out credit forgiveness.
If you've been making consistent car payments and you're tired of that high interest rate, this program is for you.
Get into a new Nissan with a manageable payment and keep that cash in the bank.
Come visit us at Greenville Nissan and drive your Nissan home today.
Hurry, this program ends September 3rd. Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arrgh!
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in Color. And let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
We have you covered with all the ECU news and beyond that you need for the drive home. The Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Coming up this week, and we've talked about it previously, it is a huge event coming to Greenville, a tent revival, the Revival of Hope, and it is presented by Kristi Overton Johnson Ministries, the world champion water skier, Greenville native, the greatest female athlete from the state of North Carolina, and the greatest athlete from the state of North Carolina, according to Sports Illustrated. Kristi Overton Johnson comes back to the Patrick Johnson Show. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little shocked at that intro. I don't know where you got that from, but that's pretty interesting.
It was a little creative license with the fact that Sports Illustrated named you the top athlete in North Carolina. Remember that? Wasn't it Sports Illustrated?
That cool. We'll say it was.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, I'm going with it. I'm running with it. Google this. Correct it. Oh, well, there you go. That's true. Kristi was the world water ski champion for years and even came back later on in her career. But what Kristi is doing now is far more important than anything that she did in her athletic career, which was quite successful. with Victorious Living Ministries. You are taking the word of the Lord to those that are in prison, or just people who need some help in their lives and some guidance in their lives. And so this event coming up 6:30 on Thursday, and it'll run Friday and Saturday as well, is I just think another chapter in spreading the word.
Yes, you're exactly right. I used the word download yesterday when I was doing an interview. It was God downloaded this event in my heart last year during the Festival of Hope at Wildwood Park. I was just getting ready to take the stage, and I knew that I was supposed to do this. And when we've been, preparing for this, I just feel like God's wanting me to bring what we bring to the incarcerated across the country to the people of Eastern North Carolina, because the reality is you don't have to be incarcerated physically to be incarcerated emotionally, or feel like you're incarcerated in your marriage or your job or finances or your health. So we are excited. Our whole team is flying in from across the country, from Arizona, Florida, Georgia, all sorts of places. And so the speakers are phenomenal. I'm excited to get to speak Thursday night, and I'll be hosting the other events and bringing a little something at each one. But the men and women that have been chosen for this event are so awesome. Not perfect people, but people who are on quite a journey and whose lives have been touched in a very powerful way. So I can't wait to see what God's going to do in the next couple of days.
Here is the great thing. It is free. It is open to everybody. Tickets are not required. You can go to kojministries.org, and you'll find Revival of Hope there. Just Google Revival of Hope, and it'll pop up. You can click on it. The 19th through the 21st this week at 820 East Fire Tower Road in Winterville. Okay. The tent revival in, just Southern culture and religious culture is as old as the hills. So there's something about this that is nostalgic in a way, but there's also something about this that it's in a way where everybody's, we're got our nose in one of these, or we got our, whatever. It's a way to kind of connect what's old is new again, I would think, in a way.
Yeah, someone yesterday called it real old school, and it was a young person, and they were excited. They're like, we need to use the word old school because that'll attract some of the young people. But it's something I remember. I never went to one, but I remember hearing about them. I remember my grandparents telling me about them. And I've been reading a lot about those old-timey tent revivals. And the reason I thought it was important is to create a space where there's not denomination. There's not, we don't have all, anything but coming together in a very simple space for one purpose. And there's a verse in the Bible that says that when God's people come together and they pray and they humble themselves and we get unified, it says that he comes and he heals our land. And all you gotta do is turn on the TV and see that this land needs some healing. Everybody, we put on our flyers, are you tired? Are you weak? Are you brokenhearted? Feel isolated? And I've seen people pick up those flyers and say, check, 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 check. I'm all of those things. I'm those things. Even right now, like our team has been through so much in the last couple of months. I'm fighting a bug right now, and I'm just like, okay, I'm tired. And I think this event is just as much for me as it is for everybody else to come and to sit and to receive. Really beautiful. There's a couple of people that'll be speaking that I actually ministered to when they were in prison. And now they're the main speakers, some of the main speakers, because I've seen the power of God on their life, and they are walking in victory and have come from such an incredible background. And so I can't wait for you all to meet the people I get to hang out with all the time. And they're also going to be going into the Pitt County Detention Center on Thursday and Saturday and bringing the same revival of hope to incarcerated men and women. And I am so grateful to Captain Poston and Chief Lim and Sheriff Dance for making all of that possible. So we've had lots of meetings over there and got that organized. And we have 4 teams that'll be going in next week as well.
Pretty amazing. World champion skier, Greenville native, one of the great athletes to come out of the state of North Carolina is Kristi Overton Johnson, Victorious Living Ministries, as she joins us here. And the tent revival is coming up, the Revival of Hope. It'll be taking place Thursday through Saturday, 6:30. You'll begin each night. There'll be a breakfast, which she'll tell us about on Friday. And it's 820 East Fire Tower Road. Before we get into the events and before we get into some of the speakers, Kristi, when you hear, okay, we got a field, we got a tent, we got Fire Tower Road, which anytime you're on it, especially that time of day, whoo, Katie barred the door as far as traffic goes. So, and I know you've got, the authorities cooperating with this, with traffic flow and all that. So where will people park, that sort of thing? Because, again, this is a free, totally open, don't have to have a ticket event.
Right.
You can go to one night, all 3 nights, whatever you want to choose, because it'll be something that is open to the entire community. So what would what's the recommendation with parking and landmarks and that sort of thing?
So the landmark is the fire tower on East Fire Tower Road. It's a Winterville address, but it's right in Greenville city limits. If you know where Champions is, Ignite Church. So we are encouraging people, remember the traffic. We set it at 6:30 because that way we're not in the 5 o'clock traffic on Fire Tower. But the entrance will not actually be off of Fire Tower. We're going to have that blocked off because that's the tent's going to be very close to the road. So you will want to turn in, and I wish I knew the name of that loop there, but you want to turn in as if you were going to Champions, and right there at the Circle K, turn right there, and you're going to be able to enter the field at that moment. And so once you get in the field, there'll be plenty of parking. Where they'll also, I want to encourage everybody to wear closed-toe shoes, just because it is like women don't wear heels. This isn't a fashion show. You're going to see me very casual as well. You wear heels, you're going to be sinking down. And, it is a field, it's got great, what do you call it, structure to it. I've been checking after these little rains. I look out the window right now just because it was just raining, but it drains very quickly. The tent's going to have sides on it. And so, it can be a mess. So we do encourage you to come early for those evening events. The Friday morning is a women's conference. That is the 20th of September, and it starts at 9. But, the tent will be open, ready to welcome people by about 20 till. And there'll be a free breakfast that is provided by many local churches, and also free coffee from Awaken for the first 250 people. So want to make sure that people get there early, and it's just going to be a little grab bag. You can sit down, you got your coffee, your juice, your water, whatever it is. And same thing on Saturday morning for the men. And I'm going to sneak in just for a little while for the men's conference, make a couple of announcements, say hello, and thank everybody for coming. But both of the conferences, they're going to be a lot more laid back, and there's going to be testimony after testimony, incredible music. And you're going to hear Cliff Godwin share his story. Many of you have probably heard some of his podcasts, but he's on quite a journey. And it's really amazing what he's doing. So he will be there. April Rains, who has been really big in our political community here, she's going to be sharing about her journey through a lot of loss at the women's conference. We got Parker Bird's family. His mom and dad, Jeff and Mitzi Bird, will be speaking. I can't remember which night. I don't want to misquote it. I think it's Friday night. And so they're going to be talking about, it wasn't just Parker. Parker lost his leg, and we've heard a lot from Parker, but his parents lost their dreams too for their son to play baseball. And then they had 2 other beautiful daughters that their whole lives were upturned and had to move. And so they're going to share a little bit about how to keep moving forward when your dreams are really cut short, or so you think they are, and God replaces them with a new scenario and a new dream.
All right, we've got Kristi Overton Johnson with us here, and you went through the schedule, went through some of the speakers. It's KOJ Ministries, the Revival of Hope. It'll be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 6:30 each evening this week, and then the women's conference on Friday, the men's conference on Saturday. These are at 9 a.m. in the morning. And again, this is there where the fire tower is on the Fire Tower Road, free and open. to the public. Tickets are not required. Men dress with toe shoes also. No flops. You don't want to be flopping around out there. Yeah, no flip flops out there.
Itchy grass on your feet. So,
All right, Pilk, I learned something last week about Kristi Overton Johnson I did not know. Her husband was a defensive back at UCF. Did you know this, Pilk?
I did not.
Yeah. How about that? So I didn't realize, I knew you were down in Florida, but I didn't realize you were at UCF participating in water skiing down there. And that's one of the hated rivals of ECU. Nobody's perfect, Kristi. I forgive you for that whole thing. But you're back here now, so that's the important thing.
Well,
but
he's probably a great athlete, but he's not near as good of an athlete as she is. I mean, she's the
best
greatest of all
athlete in the
time
family.
in her
Yeah,
sport,
right.
He's still
Right.
D1 though.
Right, he's still a big-time football player, but she's the best athlete of the family. There's no doubt. But that's kind of interesting, and but I didn't realize that. So when was the time that he was playing at UCF?
88 to 92. He was a free safety, and I went down there on a water ski scholarship actually, but I mainly went down there. It wasn't so much the school as it was the location of Orlando. And they did offer me a scholarship. I skied collegiately a couple of years, but collegiate water skiing is great. It's more like a club sport, and there was a lot of partying, and I was pretty serious, professional athlete. So I would ski their nationals and things like that. But yeah, Tim's brother, Ron Johnson, was the quarterback. He walked in. Tim was telling me the other day, his brother walked on, I think he was 12 deep on his freshman year and was redshirted. And by the next year, I think, he was actually the starting quarterback, and he was like 5'2" at the point when he entered as a freshman, and just had a growth spurt and was determined like a bulldog. But both of them played together, and so we moved back, and now we wear purple and gold, not black.
Yes. That's a pretty good story about Ron Johnson himself, 12th string quarterback to the starter. That's a pretty good story too, right there, in its own right. And then, as I understand it, Tim had access to a lake. You had access to the boat, and as all great marriages, that's how it all got started, I guess.
Yeah, it was a match made in heaven. I had lost my place of where I was training, and I had a boat. And so my training partner, Kyle, and Kyle met Tim, and he came over and he says, I met the guy you're going to marry. You need to come over and train at this lake. And so that had me intrigued. Drove up to the lake, and Tim was getting out of his beat up Toyota that was held together by ski rope, I think, or bungee cord. And we drove up on the property, and I saw Tim, and I was like, he's the guy I've been watching in one of my marketing classes. So I already had my eye on him and did not know that it was actually him. And so it was really funny because his stepdad owned a meat plant that would supply restaurants. And so Tim was always sharing with me corn dogs and chicken patties, and he did not give them to the other girls. And he would pull out the chair from under me and let me hit the floor. That was his way of flirting. And he didn't do that to any other girl. So I knew that he had the hots for me.
Wow. Well, that's quite a story.
He was 19.
That really is.
He was 19. So we have grown up together, and we are so different. Coach Jeff Connors interviewed me the other day on his podcast, and he goes, y'all look like the same. I'm like, we are so different. But his brother was very much like me, a high achiever after it. And we would have killed each other if we had gotten married. I had to marry the laid back who, was taller than me, had bigger muscles than me, that wasn't intimidated. Not that his brother would have been, but, a lot of guys were intimidated by my big muscles and accomplishments. And Tim could care less. He was just there to support them. And he was God's gift to me. And so people that don't know Tim are missing a gift.
The 3-day revival hosting 5 inspiring events under an open-air tent, including a baptism service on the final night. Events free, open to the public. Tickets are not required. It's the Revival of Hope. It starts Thursday at 6:30, and you can learn more by going to Overton Johnson Ministries, kojministries.org, and just Google Revival of Hope, and or put it whatever your favorite search engine is. You'll find it, and you'll get all of the stuff. It's great to talk to you again. Thank you for coming on. Man, I know you've worked very, very diligently on this throughout the summer since we last talked to you about it in studio. So I certainly know it's been a labor of love in a lot of ways and a calling for you. So thanks so much. It's great to see you again, Kristi.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yep, Kristi Overton Johnson, and don't let the rain deter you. Head on out tonight, 6:30, Fire Tower Road. Thanks to Kristi. Thanks to T-Bone. Stay tuned. The Logan Zone is next. We'll be back tomorrow, 5 o'clock, PJ Show.